Roses have blends these elements to create a captivating world that all begins with a young huntress named Feyre struggling to save her family from starvation. Today I'm going to share with you the introduction to this novel, the passage that drew me to become enamored with my favorite series. The forest had become a labyrinth of snow and ice. I'd been monitoring the parameters of the thicket for an hour, and my vantage point in the crook of the tree branch had turned useless. The gusting wind blew thick flurries to sweep away my tracks, but buried along with them any signs of potential quarry. Hunger had brought me farther from home than I usually risked, but winter was the hard time. The animals had pulled in, going deeper into the woods than I could follow, leaving me to pick off stragglers one by one, praying they'd last me until spring. But they hadn't. I wiped my numb fingers over my eyes, brushing away the flakes clinging to my lashes. Here there were no telltale streaks stripped of bark to mark the deer's passing. They hadn't yet moved on. They would remain until the bark ran out, then travel north past the wolf's territory and perhaps into the lands of Prythian, where no mortals would dare go, not unless they had a death wish. A shudder skittered down my spine at the thought, and I moved it away, focusing on my surroundings, on the task ahead. That was all I could do, all I'd been able to do for years. Focus on surviving the week, the day, the hour ahead. And now with the snow, I'd be lucky to spot anything, especially from my position up in the tree, scarcely able to see 15 feet in front of me. Stifling a groan as my stiff limbs protested at the movement, I unstrung my bow before easing off the tree. The icy snow crunched under my fraying boots, and I ground my teeth. Low visibility, unnecessary noise. I was well on my way to yet another fruitless hunt. Only a few hours of daylight remained. If I didn't leave soon, I'd have to navigate my way home in the dark, and the warnings of the town hunters still rang fresh in my mind. Giant wolves were on the prowl, and in numbers, not to mention whispers of strange folk in the area, tall and eerie and deadly. I had risked much in coming so far in the forest, but we'd finished our last loaf of bread yesterday, the remainder of our dried meat the day before. Still, I would have rather spent another night with a hungry belly than found myself as the appetite of a wolf. Not that there was much of me to feast on. I turned between the trees, pushing a hand against the hollow of my aching stomach. I knew the expression that would be on my two elder sisters' faces when I returned to our cottage empty-handed yet again. After a few minutes of careful searching, I crouched in a cluster of snow-heavy brambles. Through the thorns, I had a half-decent view of a clearing and the small brook flowing through it. A few holes in the ice suggested it was still frequently used. Hopefully something would come by. Hopefully. I sighed through my digging the tip of my bow into the ground and leaned my forehead against a crude curve of wood. We wouldn't last another week without food, and too many families had already started begging for me to hope for handouts from other wealthier townsfolk. I witnessed firsthand exactly how far their charity went. I eased into a more comfortable position and calmed my breathing, straining to listen to the forest over the wind. The snow fell and fell, dancing and curling like sparkling spindrifts, the white fresh and clean against the brown and gray of the world. And despite myself, despite my numb limbs, I quieted that relentless, vicious part of my mind to take in the snow-veiled woods. Once it had been second nature to savor the contrast of new grass against dark, tilled soil, or an amethyst brooch nestled in folds of emerald silk. Once I'd dreamed and breathed and thought in color and light and shape. Not likely to happen anytime soon again. Perhaps ever.